Pope Francis has written a letter addressed to every person on this planet, urging us all to protect the Earth, our common home. In the letter, he says, "The Earth is God's gift to us, full of beauty and wonder, where the fruits of the earth belong to everyone." But what we see today is that our common home has never been so hurt and mistreated as it has been in the last 200 years. We have developed at a greater speed than we could ever have imagined. We have treated the earth like it has an unlimited supply of resources, taking more than our fair share from most people on the planet, as well as future generations to come. We have stripped the earth of its natural forests, contaminated the earth's waters, its land, and its air. Plants and species are becoming extinct at an alarming rate. The earth, our home, is beginning to look more and more like an immense pile of filth. Our increasing use of polluting fossil fuels, especially coal, oil, and gas, is helping to drive climate change, which is one of the biggest challenges we face today. Climate change affects us all, but it is the poorest communities who suffer the most. We are now at crisis point, where the future of our common home is under threat. And despite this crisis, there seems to be no slowdown in the lifestyles of the rich nations. Enormous gaps between the rich and the poor continue to rise. Between those who are trapped in poverty with few or no resources, and those who are consuming and wasting at an ever-increasing rate, leaving a trail of waste and destruction. Our digital world is also polluting us with noise and distractions, stopping us from learning how to live wisely, to think deeply, and to love generously. Real relationships are replaced with virtual friendships, which we can choose to accept or reject, making us dissatisfied with true, deep relationships, or can give rise to a new sense of isolation. Yet, despite all of this, all is not lost. Young people demand change. Young people want to build a better future, which takes seriously the environmental crisis and the sufferings of the poor. So we can change. We can make a new start. To protect our common home, we need a common plan. The whole human family needs to work together so that we may sow beauty, not pollution and destruction. Our use of polluting fossil fuels also needs to be replaced without delay. And we need to stop treating the world's resources as an object for profit, with no thought on how our actions might affect the environment or future generations. So let's put love for the world and love for our neighbour into action by living together in harmony, listening to one another, caring for nature, and getting involved with society and politics. Let's undergo an eco-conversion in which we listen to the cry of the earth and the cry of the poor. This means taking seriously things like avoiding the use of plastic and paper, reducing water waste, separating rubbish, and using public transport as a part of our calling to protect creation. But more urgently, we need to slow down on how much we consume and throw away. We can find great joy and freedom in living simply, rather than always on the lookout for what we do not have. We are capable of these changes and making a new start. So let us make that start today. Signed, Pope Francis. Laudato Si, a letter from Pope Francis on care for our common home.
Pope Francis has just released his new encyclical on the environment, Laudato Si. Here are the top 10 messages of the new encyclical. First, the big contribution of Laudato Si is an overview of the environmental crisis from a religious point of view. Until now, the dialogue about the environment was framed mainly with political, scientific, and economic language. Now, the language of faith decisively enters the discussion. Second, the disproportionate effect of environmental change on the poor is strongly highlighted in almost every page of the document, and the Pope provides many examples of the effects of climate change, whose worst impacts, he says, are felt by those in developing countries. Third, Pope Francis takes aim at the technocratic mindset, where technology is seen as the key to human existence. He critiques an unthinking reliance on market forces in which every technological advancement is embraced before thinking about how it will affect our world. Christian spirituality, by contrast, offers a growth marked by moderation and the capacity to be happy with little. Fourth, against those who argue that a papal encyclical on the environment has no real authority, Pope Francis explicitly states that Laudato Si is now added to the body of the Church's social teaching. It continues reflection on modern-day problems that began with Leo XIII's encyclical Rerum Novarum on capital and labor in 1891. Fifth, discussions about ecology can be grounded in the Bible and church tradition. In Chapter 2, Pope Francis introduces the Gospel of Creation, in which he leads readers through the call to care for creation that extends as far back as the book of Genesis, when humankind was called to till and keep the earth. But sadly, we have done too much tilling and not enough keeping. Sixth, everything is connected. Laudato Si is a systematic approach to the problem. First, the Pope links all of us to creation. We are part of nature, included in it, and thus in constant interaction with it. But our decisions have an inevitable effect on the environment. A blind pursuit of money that sets aside the interests of the marginalized and poor and the ruination of the planet are connected. Seventh, Pope Francis does not try to prove anything about climate change. Rather, his encyclical accepts the best scientific research available today and builds on it. So Laudato Si draws on both church teaching and contemporary scientific findings from all fields to help modern-day people reflect on important questions. Eighth, Pope Francis critiques those who ignore the problems of climate change, and especially its effect on the poor. Why are so many of the wealthy turning away from the poor? Not only because some view themselves as more worthy than others, but also because frequently decision makers are, for the most part, removed from the poor, with no real physical connection to their brothers and sisters. Selfishness also leads to the evaporation of the notion of the common good. Ninth, perhaps more than any encyclical, Pope Francis draws from the experiences of people from around the world, referring to the findings of bishops' conferences in Africa, Asia, Europe, and the Americas. The Pope calls into dialogue and debate all people about our common home. And finally, this encyclical is addressed to everyone on the planet and calls for a new way of looking at things. We face an urgent crisis when the earth has begun more and more to look like, in Pope Francis's vivid language, an immense pile of filth. Still, the document is hopeful, reminding us that because God is with us, all of us can strive to change course. We can move towards an ecological conversion in which we can listen to the cry of the earth and the cry of the poor. To use religious language, what the Pope is calling for is conversion.
Human activities, from pollution to overpopulation, are driving up the Earth's temperature and fundamentally changing the world around us. The main cause is a phenomenon known as the greenhouse effect. Gases in the atmosphere, such as water vapor, carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, and chlorofluorocarbons, let the sun's light in, but keep some of the heat from escaping. like the glass walls of a greenhouse. The more greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, the more heat gets trapped, strengthening the greenhouse effect and increasing the Earth's temperature. Human activities, like the burning of fossil fuels, have increased the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere by more than a third since the Industrial Revolution. The rapid increase in greenhouse gases in the atmosphere has warmed the planet at an alarming rate. While Earth's climate has fluctuated in the past, atmospheric carbon dioxide hasn't reached today's levels in hundreds of thousands of years. Climate change has consequences for our oceans, our weather, our food sources, and our health. Ice sheets, such as Greenland and Antarctica, are melting. The extra water that was once held in glaciers causes sea levels to rise and spills out of the oceans, flooding coastal regions. Warmer temperatures also make weather more extreme. This means not only more intense major storms, floods, and heavy snowfall, but also longer and more frequent droughts. These changes in weather pose challenges. Growing crops becomes more difficult. The areas where plants and animals can live shift, and water supplies are diminished. In addition to creating new agricultural challenges, climate change can directly affect people's physical health. In urban areas, the warmer atmosphere creates an environment that traps and increases the amount of smog. This is because smog contains ozone particles, which increase rapidly at higher temperatures. Exposure to higher levels of smog can cause health problems such as asthma, heart disease, and lung cancer. While the rapid rate of climate change is caused by humans, humans are also the ones who can combat it. If we work to replace fossil fuels with renewable energy sources like solar and wind, which don't produce greenhouse gas emissions, we might still be able to prevent some of the worst effects of climate change.
Nama saya Ayu, umur saya 25 tahun, saya tinggal di Kampung Sandar.
Nama saya Ruseda, Kampung Gongbi, 30.
Nama saya Juria, anak perempuan Nurdin. Umur saya 33, Kampung Gongdi. Warna dia macam nak kemerah, yang tempat saya mandi itu. Kalau yang sebelah sana putih. Tapi masalahnya satu kan, sebab air macam tu, akak tengok macam ni, dia gatal. Tengok macam ni. Dia macam gatal-gatal, macam tu. Sebab air dia merah kan. Macam tu je. Dia gatal. Kita pun tak tahu air tu dia punci dari mana.
Teruk kalau gatal tengok macam ni. Habis tergatal kan. Mak semua keluarga kat sini lah habis.
Merah, kadang-kadang itu ada dekat atas tu, ada kayu, ada apa-apa lah. Pocok kayu, itu bunga-bunga.
Memang bau dia memang lain lah, sebab ada busuk sikit. Itu warna dia kadang jernih, kadang ada keruh. Warna macam susu tu kan. Sebab tu dia bau dia macam tak sedap lah. Kita kan ada anak, jadi kita bagi minum anak, habis sakit perut. Tapi terpaksa tak ada air kat sini. Anak saya masuk ward dah 2 kali. Sebab dia sakit macam muntah, cirit-birit. Tu.
Akak kena masak juga. Kalau tak masak, akak tak berani nak minum. Tapi kalau tersesak lah, akak dah macam haus kan, akak tak kisah. Sebab macam ke tempat kerja kan, tersesak air telaga, saya pakai minum air macam tu aja. Kalau kat rumah saya tak berani. Akak guna tapis. Tapis yang kecil tu kan. Kalau musim kemarau yang dulu saya pakai ambil dekat paya sana, tak ada air. Kadang saya minta dekat pakcik sana.
Kalau kita sedut, air tu ada dalam satu tangki, lepas tu kita nak mandi dah susah dah. Untuk nak minum sebab air tu cuma seminggu je boleh bertahan. Kalau habis cari kat parit, susah. Kalau ada motor boleh, kalau tak ada motor, dukung guna lajur, guna bakul itu. Kalau kita basuh pun walaupun sabun tu bau wangi, lepas tu kita jemur tak ada dah hilang. Macam melekit. Lepas tu kalau kita pakai kan dia macam belum cuci lah, macam gatal. Selalu kan kita pakai seluar baju sama. Macam ada rasa gatal badan. Mungkin tak bersih. Dari perigi gali sendiri. Tu guna cedok. Guna macam tong macam tu. Kita selalu penat kan. Selalu cedok. Itu basuh baju. Kotor air tu buang lagi. Cedok lagi. Itu ambil lagi bawa kat rumah. Selalu banyak rasa beban kita.
Pagi noreh, lepas noreh lagi, saya balik kadang pukul 12, saya balik noreh. Lepas balik noreh, lepas tu masak, lepas tu angkat air daripada loji. Kadang-kadang kakak pun dia macam tak berdaya lah sebab lemah kan.
Saya memang dekat sinilah tempat saya yang harapan masa depan anak-anak saya. Kat sinilah.
Kehidupan orang asli macam tu lah.
How long would it take for the world's largest rainforest to burn down? If we don't do anything to stop it, we'll soon find out. The Amazon rainforest creates 20% of the Earth's oxygen. It's home to 30% of the planet's species. And it holds the secrets to treating some of our most deadly diseases. If we destroy the Amazon rainforest, the consequences would be disastrous. And they'd be felt all over the world. Could we survive without it? Why would it have a giant impact on our health care? And would we ever be able to bring it back? This is What If? And here's what would happen if the Amazon rainforest disappeared. Recently, massive forest fires have become the biggest threat to the Amazon's survival. But unfortunately, the fires are just part of a much bigger problem. For example, farming, mining, and logging are already responsible for 3 football fields worth of deforestation per minute. If we don't do anything to stop this, the Amazon rainforest will disappear eventually. And we'd lose any chance we have in the battle against climate change. The Amazon rainforest is one of the most incredible places on Earth. It covers 40% of South America, drives the South American economy, and stores 86 billion tons of carbon that would otherwise be polluting our atmosphere. With an area that's this important, you'd think we would do everything in our power to protect it. But we don't. Since 1978, an estimated 750,000 square kilometers of rainforest have been destroyed, all thanks to humans. If this trend continues, the Amazon rainforest could disappear within 100 years. How bad would that be for our planet? Well, let's take a look. For starters, we'd be losing a huge amount of our planet's biodiversity. The Amazon rainforest has more plant and animal species than any other terrestrial ecosystem on Earth. If we destroy the Amazon, we'll be destroying all that diversity too, and wiping out an entire ecosystem at the same time. That would have huge effects on Earth. We'd all quickly realize how much we've been relying on the Amazon's resources for food and medicine. Most people are surprised when they find out that hundreds of prescription drugs have come from things in the Amazon rainforest. We're not just talking about simple herbal remedies either. We're talking about full-fledged cancer-fighting drugs that are so important that they've been classified as essential medicines by the World Health Organization. And we haven't even scratched the surface yet. Scientists estimate that they've studied less than 5% of the plants in the rainforest for potential medicinal benefits. So who knows what other essential treatments we could lose without the rainforest? But the most critical problem we'd face if the Amazon completely disappeared would be a faster pace of climate change. If the Amazon rainforest continues to wither and die, it will stop being a source of oxygen. Instead, it will begin to give off carbon, which we all know is fueling climate change. Right now, the Amazon has a natural stockpile of carbon reserves. Anywhere from 90 to 140 billion tons of the stuff. If we woke up tomorrow and found the Amazon destroyed, especially by fire, all that carbon would be floating in the atmosphere. Some experts believe that if this happens, we would lose the battle against climate change. But it's not all doom and gloom. There is still hope for the Amazon rainforest. Through studies conducted over the past several decades, researchers have found that tropical forests may be able to survive human-caused destruction. Even without human help, a rainforest can start growing again if it has enough seedlings. However, this can only be successful if the rainforest isn't always under attack. So, what can you do to help? Well, for starters, don't eat as much beef. Processed beef products, such as fast food hamburgers, are full of illegally sourced beef from the rainforest. Reduce the amount of paper you use and choose renewable energy products whenever you can. Renewable energy reduces the amount of carbon we spew into the atmosphere from fossil fuels, many of which come from the Amazon rainforest. Maybe, if we all work together, we can restore this beautiful rainforest to its former glory. But that's a topic for another What If.
Hello. Lovely to see you again. So, shall we explain what happened?
Yeah.
Well, I went to your school to surprise you and tell you you were going to be auditioning for Britain's Got Talent.
Yeah.
That's right.
Thank you. Oh my God.
Was it a nice surprise?
Yeah. How could that not be a good surprise? That's an excellent surprise.
So, Anishwa, tell us how old you are.
7 years old.
And what is your big passion in life?
I care about the environment a lot.
Okay, we're all rooting for you. The stage is yours, Anishwa.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, I really want him to do well.
There's no other planet like Earth. It holds plants and flourishes life. It is an amazing creation. A real inspiration. There's no other planet like Earth. we've been getting it wrong for much, much, much too long. Cutting down trees, polluting the seas, poaching the animals for accessories. We need to stop getting it wrong. I wish you could see the Tasmanian tiger in his very special, unique attire. The bats and the flying squirrels glide in the open skies, and we can catch the beauty forever in our eyes. The gorgeous peacocks stand their way. The fantastic golden eagles glide in display. But there's no other planet like Earth.
Well done.
Thank you, everyone.